find a way.
Alex, glad you're here. I worry about you small city guys from New York City coming to Bristol, getting lost, not knowing, getting intimidated by the size of the city. You doing all right with that?
Oh yeah, it can be intimidating.
A lot faster pace here in East Tennessee than you're used to in New York City, right?
Well, the past 3 years in Florida has slowed me down a little bit.
Yeah, you've adjusted to the pace.
Yeah, you have to.
Yeah.
You have to, because you come across individuals that are definitely slower paced than you.
Yeah.
And you kind of have to, take a step back.
Yeah.
Just so that you can be on the same page. And more comfort for them.
Right.
And they know I'm from New York immediately. So.
Yeah. It's just everybody just operates at a different pace in the city, huh?
Yes. Good and bad though. New York, everything's just too fast. I'm not sure the willingness to help is kind of there. Florida had to adjust where something as simple as getting a driver's license. In New York, we're used to grabbing a number and waiting. And it's really a nightmare. It's hard. It's like worse than going to the dentist. Here you go and you have a conversation. And they're just so pleasant. And then actually it gets to the point where like, hurry up, I want my license so I can get out of here. It's a different world. It's culture shock, but I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. What do you miss about the city?
Well, I grew up in the city.
Yeah.
So like the first 20 years of my life is in the city. I don't really miss much of it. I would say one thing is that it really never sleeps. Like you can literally go out at any time of the day and their things are open. People outside. It doesn't even seem like it's 2 o'clock in the morning. I had to adjust to that. And as I moved further north, because I ended up living about an hour and a half north of the city, which is more of where I'm at now in Florida. It's a little bit more suburban, country-ish.
Yeah. So growing up, you were right there in the middle. You were born in New York. What was it like as a kid? What did Alex do as a kid?
As a kid, well, I grew up in Harlem.
Yeah.
It was tough, I would say. I grew up in a poor family. They made ends meet. Family instilled some really good values in me, which I think carried on throughout my entire life, because I was around just everything, drugs, gangs. But because of my parents, I was never involved in it. I was around it, but not involved in it. Very big difference. But I took that street knowledge with me forever. And it's very different growing up in that environment because you become aware of a lot of things.
You're exposed to it on a daily basis.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you just become aware and you appreciate. I think you appreciate more. But as a kid, I always felt different. And because I always wanted more from the very beginning. And I see myself now looking back, that taught me who I was, but I always wanted more. And it's a shame, I hate to say it, because people get caught in an environment and get lost and never find their way out. And a lot of my older friends like still in the same area.
Yeah.
Which I think is sad.
Yeah. You think you were born with that, just that ambition, or did it come from your parents?
Definitely born.
Yeah.
Definitely born, because even back then, when I was in my teens, late high school, going into college, I would browse the aisles for self-help book. That back then it was weird. I thought people thought that was weird. Now it's a thing, but I was always that person seeking more. I didn't know what, because I didn't have a role model. My parents both worked for their whole life and waited for the pension like your average American, but I always wanted more. And right out of college, I was seeking something that I could do for myself. And it's just, I don't know, I just didn't want what people thought was life. And at that age, I didn't know what it was yet. And as I became older, as you age, you start to learn and really refine what that is.
Yeah. So growing up in Harlem, I know you're an athlete. You're baseball, right?
Yeah, I played baseball in school, and outside I played everything. I mean,
Did you just play in the street?
street,
Yeah.
tough streets, man. I played tackle football on concrete.
Yeah.
Just think about how crazy that is.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, man, like it's like we're so overly protective of kids now,
Oh yeah,
right?
it's a shame. I think it's we're not setting them up correctly.
Yeah.
And I was afraid that my kids didn't have that, so I made sure that I taught them. Because when we had my kids, I already had left the city.
Okay.
So they don't know the city.
So I'm really curious. How did you do that? Did you have to like you obviously faced adversity every day in the streets of Harlem, playing tackle football on the asphalt or whatever, right? Every day adversity. You learned how to navigate dark alleys. You just learned awareness.
Correct.
Right? How'd your kids grow up in the suburbs? Like, how did you equip them with that?
It's tough.
Yeah.
It really is. It's experiencing it and hearing stories is just two different things. So I try to equip them as much as possible just by pointing things out to them and, bringing up that way, because they'll never know what I've been through, right? No matter what I paint the picture or what stories I tell them, they'll never know. But I try to equip them enough to understand that that does exist. Doesn't matter where you live, and just to be aware. I mean, I think that's the key thing, just to be aware.
Yeah. But they experience much less adversity than you would have.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Oh yeah.
I think about that a lot. Like kids I feel like we're shaped and we grow strength and we grow confidence through persevering through adversity. And seems like that's why maybe some of the bigger personalities came from the big cities. How do we do how do we do that now with our upper middle class kids, parenting, culture?
I think everything starts at home, though.
Yeah.
I mean, again, where I grew up, I could have turned out to be anything, but my parents, it's me and two other brothers, so it's three of us. None of us strayed and did anything with drugs or gangs and none of that stuff.
Yeah.
We always stayed straight because it stayed at home.
Yeah.
And that's what I teach my kids, from the home. This is what we need to understand, the morals, what's right and wrong. Because you're going to learn things out in the streets on your own regardless. And we try to just set that up in the beginning. And again, like I said, I thought I was a little different growing up, being my own boss, and I wanted my own things. And I taught my kids to do that. They both went to college, great colleges too.
Yeah.
But I always told them not to chase the dollar. Like chase something that you want to do. I don't want them to work for 40, 50 years and just regret life. I want you to just find something that you're passionate about, and the money will come. Figure out what you want to do that's comfortable. And honestly, they're doing what I put into them, and it makes me proud. My son's 25, my daughter's 28, and they're really on the path that they enjoy.
They found things that they want to do.
What they do for a living for them is not work.
Yeah.
That's beautiful, isn't it?
No, that's great. That's great. So what did the high school Alex want?
The high school Alex, woof. I actually met my wife in high school. I was 16 years old. I don't know, I was just big into sports. I was pretty good in school, but not really big into it. But I know I wanted out of the city. I knew that immediately. Early on, I knew I wanted out of the city.
You didn't know where or what it looked like. You just knew it wasn't. You wanted something different.
Right, because you're talking to someone that we didn't go on family vacations. We didn't travel, so I didn't know anything beyond where I lived.
Yeah.
So, but I knew there was more. Like, I knew there was more, and I wanted more. So that's what I was seeking. And so in high school, that really just started, like really just growing and growing and growing. And then, in college, it just started refining and so on. And then like, all right, I started reading a lot more and trying to figure out what that more was. I mean, it's, if you don't know, like, but I it's just something in me. It's like, I know I need more.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah. So where'd you go to school?
I went to school, Baruch College. It's a part of the City University, CUNY system.
Yeah.
Pretty good college.
Yeah.
Did well,
Yeah.
Again, I went for business management. Didn't know what I wanted to do still.
Yeah. Yeah.
Didn't know what I wanted to do.
Man, like when you're in your 18, 19, 20, like
Making that decision?
you don't know anything about yourself,
Nothing.
right? Like there's nothing.
Absolutely nothing. But you don't realize that until you're 30. So like, man, I didn't know anything back then.
Yeah, what you think you know about yourself ends up not being very, very accurate, and then you're making some big decisions.
Oh, yeah.
Like back when we went to school, like you were going, it wasn't open-ended. Like you kind of had a career direction when you went to college.
No career direction. No one to really emulate, unfortunately.
Yeah. So, but then in your 20s, it's such a cool time to watch your really enjoy parenting kids at this age, because you see them really start to understand themselves, understand what's going to make them happy.
Absolutely.
Yeah. What'd you learn about yourself in your 20s?
In my 20s, I learned, honestly, just follow what you want, because you can get it. My first job was sales. I sold furniture for a place called Siemens Furniture in Westchester. Did that for about a year, and quickly I learned I didn't want to do that. And one of the reasons is because every other salesperson on that floor was probably in their 60s, meaning that was like their last stop.
Yeah.
And that's the only place that they can land to make that kind of money.
Yeah.
And I didn't want that.
Yeah.
I'm like, we're generations apart.
Yeah.
So quickly, I didn't want that. And I started looking, and that's where my networking started. I immediately, it was something that just was part of me. And I landed a job at a big bank with Chase. And from there, it literally just started going to a place where I had no idea. And this is what I taught my kids, is like the best thing you could do is learn how to communicate. Kids nowadays don't know how to communicate, which is sad. So I taught them, I said, the one thing you need to learn is how to communicate. And I learned that immediately, and I read books on how to do it, Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People. Like, I read these type of books and networking. And I worked my way up in my 20s to be a branch manager, like one of the youngest branch managers. Then I got my license. I became a financial advisor, making really good money at a young age, young family. But guess what? That wasn't enough.
Yeah.
I still didn't know what it was yet. It just wasn't enough.
Yeah.
It wasn't the money.
Huh.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Most people think it's the money, but it wasn't.
So you're measuring it by what? Like your satisfaction, your happiness?
Happiness, definitely.
Yeah.
And early on, I was a big family man. So for me, it was very important to spend time with the family.
Okay.
And throughout very young, I always found a place of work that I had time to myself. So as branch manager, I didn't. I had to go in and I had to leave. Became a financial advisor, now I had my own time. I worked within a system, but I can come and go as I please. That allowed me to go see my kids play baseball and do this, take them from here to there. And to this day, my kids remember me never missing a game, a recital. My daughter performs. And that's, for me, that's success early on. Like, that's what I want. Because I always felt I can go out and make money. And money, I don't know, it's weird. Money's a weird thing. It's a tool. It can create certain things for happiness, but that's,
Yeah.
there's people with a lot of money that are not happy.
A lot of people
Yeah,
with
so-
money that aren't happy.
I learned that pretty early, that money was not what I was really seeking.
Yeah. Yeah. What did you like? I think it's such a benefit to work in high performing organizations when you're young, even if it's not what you want to do.
Yes.
What did you learn from Chase?
Actually, I learned a lot, actually, structure. Again, just dealing with people. Because in my 20s, as a branch manager now, I'm managing 30 people.
No.
That's a lot.
Yeah, probably a lot of them older than you, right?
Yes, and that's an interesting dynamic, right? So now you're managing these people, but there was structure there, and I can always lean on, again, the networking and the relationship. I can always lean on someone. Like my regional manager, we became very close. I can lean on him for advice and so on, and he would ask me to do certain things. But one thing that I didn't like about the organizations is they can make a move that would change your life drastically.
Yeah.
And you have no control over that.
Yeah.
And it's tough to say, but I don't like that.
Yeah.
I want control.
Yeah.
I want control.
Yeah.
It's a big aspect of what I want.
You've always struck me as a natural leader. Do you like when you were a kid, were you a leader, or is it something that are those skills that you learned by seeking out information? It's self-improvement.
I think it's a little bit of everything. I think it was something I was definitely born with. Because young, I would definitely lead and always wanted to be the one to call the shots, be the captain on the team and, things like that. As I got older, I definitely saw that, and I started refining it. I'm a big reader, and I just started learning more. I'm big on to finding people that are in a spot or in a position where I want to be, and learn from them. I'm big on that circle.
Yeah.
5 people around you, you're the average.
Yeah.
If you outgrow these 5 people, you got to find new people.
Yeah.
So I've learned that early, and that's what I started doing.
Yeah.
And it just started refining that. My wife, actually, she's really big on it. I bounce a lot of things from her, and she's pretty wise, and she's one of my coaches. Like we talk, and she'll reel me in sometimes because there was a time where I think I came across too hard, too harsh, and I didn't realize it. And my wife would say, "You know what? You're scaring people."
Oh.
It wasn't intentional, but it was. Some people are afraid of confidence, right? So you come across very confident.
Yeah.
People can be. I learned people get fear that.
Defensive.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I had to almost mellow down a little bit.
Yeah.
And understand that. But once I understood that, then I know how to navigate that aspect. So
Right.
it's all about learning.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a learning and just self-discovery. Like that's a great example, of you didn't know that about yourself when you were 19. You figured it out somewhere along the way.
Oh yeah.
But it's just it's this journey of self-discovery, and the different experiences help you learn more about yourself and the adversity and all those things. It's interesting stuff. I'm sensing a common theme of ambition from really young. That seems like it was always there.
Yes.
Not being content with the level you're at, seeking the next level. Were you good at, and it sounds like you were good at surrounding yourself with people of similar ambition levels.
Yes. It gets harder though. It becomes a little more difficult because you outgrow people, and it's a hard thing. And me and my wife talk about it, because even close family members, you outgrow them, and it's sad. You're around them, but not much of a conversation. So do you really want to be around them? It becomes that. So it can be very difficult and lonely.
Yeah.
It can be very lonely.
Yeah. And you were in New York. Like, there's a lot of ambitious people in New York. Like, you can find, I've always been envious of that part of the city, is there's a community. There's so many people. You can find your people, right? In a smaller town, like I've lived all my life, like, you don't necessarily have that.
It's true.
A lot of the ambitious people leave.
It's true.
And they go to New York, right? And so it's one of those things, I think, that's especially difficult for more rural America.
That's interesting. Never saw it that way. Because where I come from, it's like I don't see that.
Yeah. That's one thing about the cities that I'm always. You can just feel the energy.
Yeah, you definitely can. That's a definite.
And that pace that you talk about, that is a product of ambition and productivity.
Yes.
Yeah.
Not everyone has it though.
No. Yeah.
It's interesting. Not everyone has it.
Lots of people get left behind.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Tough place to be, but
competitive.
Extremely. Extremely. I'm finding the same thing where I'm at in Florida with what we do now. It's very competitive. Some really smart people out there doing some stuff.
Yeah.
And again, I'm getting to know a lot of people. But you'll find them.
Yeah.
You'll be constantly searching.
Yeah. Yeah. So you leave Chase. You weren't satisfied with Chase. What was next?
I moved from different financial organizations for quite a bit. Smith Barney, which is part of Citibank back then, HSBC, all as a financial advisor. Again, making good money at the time, my own time.
Yeah.
It just wasn't what I wanted. It's weird. I still didn't know. Young guy making money, his own time wasn't enough. Yeah. And an interesting thing came up in Miami. And one of the branch managers that I worked at knew someone in Miami. Opportunity came up where there was a big restaurant that the owner, like, it was seized because the owner got into drugs. But it was like 20 plus years, this restaurant. That was a big, like, track record. The guy knew the accountant. And me, I'm a numbers guy. So he brought it to my attention. I started making some phone calls, digging into the numbers, calling. I was like, wow, this might be an opportunity. We went down there. Just, it's a long story to make it short. I got into a partnership with these two guys, bought the place, fixed it up. In 2 months, we were grossing like 200 grand already. Brand new, it was doing great. But I didn't know anything about partnerships. That's one thing I didn't know about yet. So I didn't have all the legalities done, like the insurances. So it was a big lesson. I didn't lose, but I didn't gain. But I did gain a knowledge and a confidence because I did everything. I learned how to get the liquor license in Miami, which operates like real estate, which is interesting. I got everything done. I put all that in place, got this place running. I knew nothing about it. So
brand new bit, like no experience in that.
I knew nothing about a sports bar. It was a sports bar.
Yeah.
Got it running, made it profitable immediately. Even though it didn't work out and I didn't make money because there was potential, I learned something within myself. It's like, man, I could do anything. And that's where the bug really started hitting. When I got back, that's when I got into real estate.
So you knew you wanted more when you were in New York, but you got the self-belief from the experience in Miami.
I still went back to New York though. That was like 2009-ish, I think it was.
Yeah. So did you have a better idea at that point of what you wanted?
I did. I wanted to create something myself. Like I wanted to call all the shots, man.
Yeah.
It's like, and real estate was something that I always knew I wanted to be a part of. Because as an advisor, I knew people with money always had real estate in their portfolio somehow.
Yeah.
So I was like, real estate's the way to go. So that's when I started looking into real estate and early on, I was like, I'm getting my license, but I'm going to be a broker. I'm going to run my brokerage for a while, and I'm going to take it from there. And then I want to do rentals and so on and so on and so on.
Yeah.
Early on. I mean, it's been a while that I've been thinking about that.
Hard to get in the game in a place like New York City.
Yeah, it's hard.
Right? Like just,
yes, very hard.
Yeah.
I mean, you need so much capital. It makes it really hard.
Yeah. So you got in the real estate game as a broker.
Right.
That's competitive.
Extremely. Made no money for a couple of years until I figured it out.
You just have to hustle.
Yes.
For years, not days, for years.
Literally years. Literally.
Yeah.
And people that get into it think it's easy. It is very hard.
Yeah.
People say, "Oh, I got my license. Let's go." I'm like, that's the easy part.
What's the hard part?
You need clients.
Yeah.
Like we need houses. You need clients.
Yeah.
You got no business without clients.
Yeah.
And that's the hard part. That's the hard part.
People aren't trusting in
the
city, right?
How do you go find clients?
Yeah. Yeah. What did you do? Just network?
Network. That's where I learned how to really network. I just went everywhere and talked to everyone. Not necessarily selling what I do, just getting to know people. Because once they understand what you do, it comes naturally. But that takes time. It took 2 years. When I left New York 3 years ago, I was getting a lot of business. I didn't have to pay for advertising. I was giving stuff to my to my agents. I had 3 agents left at the time because I told them I was leaving the state. So things were happening really nice. And I left when the market went really crazy.
Yeah, right.
I left a lot of money on the table. A lot of money on the table. Looking back on, man, I probably could have made a ton of money, but I wanted to leave. It was time. I needed to change. And thank God my wife really, she puts a lot of trust in me.
Yeah.
So we moved to Florida, and it was probably the best thing we ever did.
Yeah. What were you looking for? What were you looking for in Florida that you didn't have in New York?
Something different. New York was almost, because of remember, it was right when COVID was happening.
Yeah.
They literally told us as real estate professionals that we cannot go out and sell houses. We had to do it virtually. Who sells a house virtually? I'm going to sell a house. So I went to almost a whole year not being able to sell a house. I was like, I told my wife I can't do this anymore. I mean, it's like the government literally is preventing us from doing what we want to do. And that noose around the neck that I felt in New York was like, I'm done. Because I started feeling it in the finance area, because when I started, we would sell products. It wasn't as regulated. And little by little, the regulations became tougher. We started making less money. Somebody tried to sue me twice. Thank goodness I'm really good with paperwork. I won. So little by little, I was already getting tired of just the government involvement in business and making it so hard, the insurance. And finally I said, you know what, enough. We gotta go. And I was just looking for states that were just a little easier to deal with when it comes to, the political background, let's just put it that way. Politics in New York just made it really, really difficult. So my wife said, yeah, let's do it. And we did it, And here in Florida is a lot nicer, a lot easier to operate.
I feel like you have more freedom.
A lot more freedom.
Yeah.
And I need that. Remember I told you, I don't like to lose control.
Yeah. Yeah. If I win, I want to win because I was good enough.
Correct.
If I lose, I want it to be because I wasn't good enough.
Correct.
And I can go back and get better.
Correct.
I don't want it to be because of somebody else.
Correct. And that's what was happening. They're literally preventing me from doing what I want to do.
Right. It's not a manager at Chase. It's the government.
Correct. And we can't control that.
Dictating.
What are we doing there?
Yeah.
That's tough.
Life just, when COVID hit New York,
it was rough.
Just changed the whole. Yeah.
Forever. It's changed everything forever, pretty much.
I remember watching, in the streets, they'd have street cams. There's nobody out.
I know. It was scary.
Yeah.
It was scary to see that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've never seen it in my entire life.
Yeah. For the pace of things just had been such a shock. Like it was a shock everywhere, but a place like that.
But the funny thing is, the 2020, 2020 is when we came to Florida the first time, and I brought my wife literally just to go vacation for 2 weeks and look around. It was such a difference it was like I'm in a different world. How is that possible? New York, we're in the same country. We come to Florida, like we don't have to wear a mask.
Yeah.
I mean, in New York, you can't even, it's like you can't do what you want to do. So I felt the freedom immediately. Got off, I was like, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, we don't have to do that? Okay, I can do that? Oh man, this is nice, So it's like, it's such a different world.
Yeah. Well, here in Bristol, I mean, we're on the state line. So there's the Virginia side of the street, Tennessee side of the street. And Virginia and Tennessee took very different approaches.
I've noticed.
To COVID. And so when that all went down, like the Virginia bars had to close down. Tennessee pretended it wasn't happening.
And you could literally cross the street.
There were bar owners on the Virginia side of the street, shuttered, looking across the street at parties going on the Tennessee side. Yeah, it was a real like contrast of just the various approaches.
And those are the things that I question. Like, how is that even possible?
Yeah.
Like, why is there such a difference?
Yeah. We just didn't know. Like nobody's like.
I know.
Nobody knew. Like we're just making that up as we went.
But I mean, our choices were taken away from us.
Yeah.
That's scary. For me, that bothers me. That bothers me.
Yeah, you're reminded, whether the decisions are right or wrong, you're reminded of how much control politicians can have.
Yes.
And that is
Too
scary.
much.
Yeah.
Too much.
Yeah. So you're in Florida. Still don't know what it is, but you're thinking real estate, and you start flipping houses.
Not yet.
Not yet.
I came to Florida. I already knew that I wanted to get into the investment arena.
Okay.
But I knew there was an issue, obviously, to have enough capital to do what I wanted to do. I could do, most people could do one here, one there. That's not what I wanted. I wanted more.
Yeah. This is a common thing.
I want more. So I'm like, okay, I got my license, I got my broker's license in Florida. I was like, you know what? I don't want to operate a retail shop. That's not what I want to do.
Yeah.
I'm going to really look into what's the best way to do this.
Yeah.
And I'm researching. Franchising came up. I was like, really? Franchising in this space? Awesome. I spoke to, what's that other company? I forgot. And it didn't go well.
Yeah.
And then your name, like you guys came up, and I spoke to Tress. I'm like, really? Like, Tress is such a great guy. I mean, I was like, man, I'm speaking to this guy. This can't be real. This can't be real. I was like, this is kind of what I'm looking for, So then that started coming, and it's just, it evolved. I'm like, okay, yeah, this is what I want. I think these people can really help me, And that's where why I'm here. It's like I knew what I wanted coming here. Yeah. How was I didn't know yet.
Yeah.
I knew what, but not how.
Yeah.
And that's what I was searching.
Yeah. You're one of those guys where I knew, like I had a pretty good sense right away that like he knows what he wants. He's gonna accomplish it. Like that was you give people that impression. So you get into this new business. What was harder than you expected?
There's a lot involved.
Yeah.
Most people don't realize how much is involved in flipping one house.
I know. It's all those 30-minute HGTV shows.
Correct. We get jaded.
Yeah.
And people say, oh, you can make a ton of money. You can make a ton of money. $100,000 on this house. Quickly you realize, no, that's not reality. And there's just so much more involved.
Yeah.
So I told John this earlier today. I said, I teach people you have to become comfortable with being uncomfortable, right? Because and that's how I challenge myself. So I said, all right, this is new. That's okay. Let me learn it. Boom. I went through the training fast. I learned as much as I can, started networking, talking to people, and just immersing myself into the business. Did the training. But I'm an interesting person. Like when I do these personality tests, I'm almost like this. It's never like this. It's always like this.
Always in the middle.
Because I'm a driver, but I'm also very analytical, which is not common. But that's, I guess, my financial advisor background. But I've been in sales my entire life.
Yeah.
And as you see, I like to take control. So that's the driver leadership type of guy. So I have a little bit of, it's interesting. My personality is not normal, but, so I immerse myself in it just to say, you know what? Okay, it's hard, but there's a lot of people making money. And, I love these guys. These guys looks like they know what they're doing, and they make me feel like family, which was important to me. I don't want to just be a number. And there was a comfort level there.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, this is right.
Yeah.
It felt so right.
Yeah. Yeah. So you get started, you find the first house, and you start putting together your team, right? I don't think you had any construction skills, right?
No.
So you're putting together your team. Tell me about, you had experience throughout your career managing teams. Tell me about that.
So the good thing is, of being a real estate background, I knew one part of what we do.
Yeah.
So that was that made it easy, that part.
Yeah.
The construction I didn't know anything about. So that was a whole new ball game. So I started just networking. I got onto a lot of Facebook groups, just searching for contractors. So for the first house, I found the contractor. We met, we hit it off. It was pretty good. Gave me some good pricing. He showed me his work. It was good. He started the job. He left me in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So immediately, my first house, I'm like, wow, I'm stuck. I have no one else. But guess what happens? Again, networking and just making relationships. It so happened that 2 houses down the street, there was a contractor. He passed by in his truck one day, and we just started talking. I go, yeah, this is what I'm doing, blah, blah. This was before my contractor left. He goes, oh, yeah, I have a crew. I have a big crew. I do a lot of houses. I go, oh, that's great. Good to know. Give me information. We exchanged. We talked. He's down the road. Something happened in the house. I went down the street, called him over because it was early in the morning. He helped me out with a small situation. I paid him. But then he gave me advice on some other stuff and gave me names for some other people. And then that started growing. I ended up finishing this house in kind of record time, 81 days from the day I purchased it and the day I sold it.
Yeah. What kind of construction budget do you have?
That construction budget was $69,000.
Yeah, that's a good time.
Yeah. And it was a scary situation. Like these numbers are not normal. Like I bought the house, then $69,000 budget, having to do a re-roof, new roof, AC, and managing contractors that I don't know. I had no one with me. It was just me. But I know how to deal with people. And I think that's the most important thing. So I got it done. It was sold before I even finished construction. So everything just fell into place. Yeah. I mean, even though I had to go, I had some, issues because the guy, and this is another thing, the guy did my roof. He said he pulled permits, never pulled permits. And in that area, there's a 2-step process. They got to see the underlayment first before you put the shingles. So I literally had to take off the roof and pay for another roof. So, but again, I was on the budget, so it worked out. And I ended up making good money on that first one. But I learned, and I had a lot of people that I can now go with.
It always fascinates me to hear people's story and like skills that they picked up along the way, and then how they use those skills later, and how if a great life finds the great stories find ways to use all of those random things we picked up along the way and find a place where we can bring all those together. And like the ambition that led you to Florida, the networking skills that you picked up along the way, it's been a pretty consistent theme in everything you've done.
Yes.
And then that connected you with the contractor. It sounds like he's the right guy. How did you, you're not the type to seek control. How did you manage that? How did you manage that project? How did you manage that contractor?
For that property?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I was a little loose in the beginning and the guy left me. So now I have a project with new people, afraid that these guys can leave me anytime. So
you were aware, you had that fear.
Yeah, I had that fear. Like,
as well.
Think about it. I'm new to this, my first property. The guy leaves me in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Can't find them anymore.
Yeah.
Thank goodness I paid him in increments. So I paid him, for what he did. But I was like, wow, I was nervous, and I was like, all right, skeptical. So I was literally at that property every day. I did not concede control. No way. I actually took more control. Until I started trusting the guy a little bit more. So I was there every day, but not the whole day.
Yeah.
So
in retrospect, do you feel like that was the right thing to do? Like, did you get that balance right?
I didn't know. Back then, it was not right. That's because that's not something that could be sustainable in scale. There's no way I can do that. But that's the only thing I knew I can do to control it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of dollar signs. Like, I have to pay these guys, I have to buy the materials, which is a whole new ballgame. I'm ordering materials. I have no idea what materials are.
Yeah.
But I had to take control because that's the only thing I knew. I didn't have anyone to rely on it. So
Having a contractor leave, still staying under budget, doing it in 81 days, that's a win. Like, what do you think you did right?
Staying on top of it, I think.
Just being there.
Yeah. Being there and just managing the people properly. I had the conversation with the guy. I said, listen, this is where I'm at. The guy just left me, and this is what I need. This is the scope, and making him understand the situation I'm in, and also selling him on potential partnership, right? So it wasn't like it's just this. Yeah. No, it's just number one of many.
Yeah.
So selling him on that idea as well.
Yeah.
And just being personable, and that led to finishing the property.
Yeah.
Fast.
I think the key to success is to attract high quality people, right? Yes. To collaborate with high quality people. I'm also becoming more aware that to attract high quality people, you've got to have big dreams. Because high quality people don't want to be a part of small thinking.
That's right.
Right? And it sounds like that was a big part of it.
Yes. Yes, big part of it. And I also learned early that when you want things done, you don't go to the person that has free time. You go to the person that's busy.
The busy guy.
The busy guy is the one that's getting things done, because if it's worth it, he's going to get it done. This guy.
Yeah. Do you think people in that situation, a lot of people might seek out the guy that's not busy because they're intimidated?
Could be.
By the busy guy?
Could be.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I went through some ups and downs from day one with that mindset, almost, because being new in an industry and not really knowing everything, you're not sure of everything. So again, there's a little control that I don't have there because I'm not too sure of everything. Yeah. But it's okay. It's like, you have to be confident in yourself as an individual.
Yeah. Yeah. And like in a situation like that where you're doing something for the first time, like sometimes you have to fake the confidence, right?
Yeah. Like, all right, he's telling me what we need. I'm like, okay, like, I don't know what he's talking about, but okay.
Yeah. I'm gonna bet that when you grow up in Harlem on the street, you learn how to fake confidence.
Oh yeah, you have to. You have to. I've been in many situations where you're not confident, man. Things could go wrong.
You show weakness. Like if you're a kid,
yes,
in that game, and you show weakness, like.
I've walked down blocks that if you show weakness, there's problems. Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, simple. And I've learned, like, we went to Dominican Republic with, one time. It was in my early 20s, and we got lost. And my wife was really scared. And, you know, we get in a cab and we give them the address, and the cab doesn't know where we're going. So I'm like, are you serious? So I said, all right, just go up that road. That's a main road. Things started looking a little familiar. I said, go this way. I said, I think I know where I'm at. Let us go. Because I wasn't too confident in the cab driver either. I said, let us off here. My wife said, what are you talking about? We walked 5 blocks and found where we were staying. But we went through some neighborhoods that were, and we were in a different country. But that confidence, I said, no, I told her, I said, act like you know where you're going. No, like, let's go, let's walk, confident. We're just having have a conversation, let's go. Keep your head up. You know, don't act like you're nervous and looking for something. No. Yeah, you learn these things that just become instinctive after a while.
Yeah.
It's a must.
Yeah, those are the sorts of things that's hard to learn in a smaller town. I think you learn it places where you can learn it. I learned some of that in sports. You know, you're always, if you're ambitious in sports, you're always getting to a level where you're uncomfortable.
Oh yeah.
And you don't feel like you're good enough. You know, you look around and you feel like if you push yourself, you get to a field where you look around and you feel like I'm probably the worst player here.
That's what I was last year. Soccer.
Yeah.
First time I ever played soccer.
Yeah.
I figured it out after the first game.
Yeah, you did. You didn't. But your body language we would not have guessed that was your first game.
Yep.
And I taught myself, because I played football and it was my main sport in high school. And I taught myself when I feel that way, like just stick out your chest and pretend.
Yeah.
Pretend like you belong.
It will help.
until you're good enough to belong, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
But there's a confidence that you need to have along with that, though.
Yeah, there is, and a self-belief.
Yes, absolutely.
That, like those little, like that contractor relationship is so important. And
it's so important.
It can be the contractors, because they have this specialized knowledge that like I've never had. Like there can be a power imbalance there, and so, but you, that confidence, even when you have to fake it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, I know my limitations.
Yeah. So, did that relationship work out long term?
He's with me today.
Wow. So how's that relationship evolved from where you were like on the site micromanaging every day the first project? How did it evolve?
We got the second project, and this was the first project that me and him started from scratch. So I already set the stage. I set the stage correctly, and I told him. So we came up with a labor number, and I said, I'm taking care of all of the materials and any big sub work, you know, roofing, HVAC, and all that stuff. And I said, we're gonna come up with one number. It's not a daily rate, it's one number. Tell me how long it's gonna take you. 5 weeks, awesome. So that number, I don't care if you do it in 3 weeks or 6 weeks, it's the same number. Let's understand that. We understand that was like the ground rules. And it was a learning as we go, because it's the first real project that we started from the beginning. He understood how it was. I paid immediately. I was easygoing. And I saw that he was very competent, so I wasn't there every day. I took a step back purposely. And when I would come a couple of days later, things were done the way they were supposed to be. So he gained my trust.
Yeah.
He was, and he was trusting me that I was going to pay him and do everything I said. So that started evolving. And the guy really knows what he's doing. And he told me ahead of time that he goes, yeah, I can probably do 3 houses at one time. I have enough guys to do it. So I'm like, oh man, this is going to work out pretty good. And I said, stick with me. He goes, oh, I like you. He goes, no, stick with me. Trust me. It's going to get to a point where we're going to do, 5 houses at one time.
Yeah.
Whether you hire more people or not, we'll get there. And that's kind of the way it progressed. I don't want to be on the job site every day, man. It's like,
Yeah.
I don't want it to be a job, right? Yes, it's our project and we have to take control. I understand that. But if I have to be there every day, it's a job. I'm clocking in and clocking out.
Yeah.
I didn't want that. And I explained it to him. But I told him, understand that this has to be done this week. Make sure it's done. I'm flexible, but it's got to be right.
Yeah.
And that understanding, it really.
Do you still manage the week to week goals and accountability?
I do, but now I have a project manager. So my week to week, actually day to day, is with him. He manages the contractors.
Okay.
Yeah, it's very different. The contractors call him now. They don't call me.
Okay.
They list the materials, they call him, and my project manager gets it to me. I've even gotten to the point where I allowed him to go and put in the order, and I'll just okay it based on what's necessary, what's not. So that day-to-day aspect, I'm involved, but I'm not there. If that makes sense. Like like I'm here this weekend. He'll text me pictures. Right, this was done. This was done.
Right.
We're going to be ready for Monday for city inspections, and we might be ready for pictures at the end of the week.
Yeah. And you've gotten to this point in just 1 year.
Yes.
Yeah, that's impressive.
Yes.
That is a solid foundation.
But it took a lot of soul searching.
Yeah.
I got to be honest. There's been some ups and downs because, and it's a great thing that we do have like Chad and John. Like me, Chad is my coach, and we talk. And there's been a lot of frustration because I do want to run, but I understand that I have to slow down to go fast, right? And I think in the beginning, because of the lack of understanding of construction and the lack of control that I had of it, I was a little hesitant on pulling trigger sometimes. I may have lost out some deals, but that's okay. But I'm pretty sure I left some deals that were bad also. So it's a combination. But I want more. I'm like, no, I want to do X amount of houses. I can't do it if I'm doing it this way. So I'm digging deep. I'm like, what's the problem? Like, the system works. You put in the right numbers. When you do property reviews, they don't have to make any changes. Like, it literally is on par. Maybe 1 or 2 tweaks here and there. You know what you're doing. So what's holding you back? I realized I was holding myself back. It was that little fear back here because of I don't have full control. I was afraid to pull the trigger. So once I really
you didn't trust yourself, or you.
I don't know if it was that, honestly. I don't know it was that. I guess it was being very cautious. I mean, the environment, being the unknown, and the real estate market, new industry that I'm doing. A little bit of all that had some doubt in my. I had doubt. But I'm telling you, in December, in end of November, me and Chad spoke. I said, no, I know something has to change. Like, I need to have at least another property. I need 2 properties going into 2024. I need it. And Brian, on one of the Thursday calls says, if you don't have properties, you don't have a business. You need properties. You need properties in inventory. And that hit me. So I said, one's not enough. So I told Chad, I said, I'm going to get one at least. At least. And once I said that out loud and really believed in what I was doing, within a week, I'm already working on 2 additional properties. And in 2 days, I put them on the contract. And I was away with my wife. We went away for the weekend just for a breather. And I'm on my computer in the hotel room as we're away, and I'm finalizing. I'm texting. I'm emailing Mark and Derek. Put more funds here. I say, how can you finance this? And they say, do it this way. I'm like, okay, do it this way. And I got it done. 2 more on the contract. Now I got 3 going into 2024. Big difference. I was like, yes, now we're talking. Things change. It's like, I could do it. 1, 2, 3, doesn't matter. Just get the right team and trust trust yourself, trust the system. I hired my project manager. Now it's like, there's no stopping on what I'm looking at.
What do you see is going to be there's a difference between managing 1 project and 3 projects. What do you think is going to be the hardest part to figure out? What's going to be the big growth for you personally with three?
Personally,
Or you think you got like?
it's kind of figured out, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel very comfortable with 3. I could tell you
Yeah.
if I had the capacity funds-wise to get more, I'd probably jump on 2 more.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm definitely going to increase that portion so I can get more houses in line. But no, I have a system in place that I'm so confident and comfortable with my property manager that really knows what he's doing, and we have a great relationship. I mean, he's almost family.
Yeah.
I'm helping him out. It's a win-win situation. No, it's that part is kind of figured out. Scaling, it's not an issue now as far as amount.
Right.
Now I know John was talking about the number in inventory, like there's a calculation on what is the proper right amount.
Yeah.
I guess I have to figure that out. Yeah. But I know I could do more than 3 at once.
You feel like your contractor is equipped to handle the multiple projects.
Okay, so that's the conversation I've been having with him. He could do 3. He's working on 3 now. He has enough people. But I also have quite a few other crews on standby. And it's all because of other relationships.
Yeah.
You know, relationship I have with one of my suppliers that does my flooring and cabinets and countertops, crews. The guy who's doing one of my HVAC, does the installation, he does roofing, he has crews. He goes, allow me to bid on your projects. I got crews that can do, multiple houses. Yeah. So I'll have that on the sideline. Yeah. So I'm ready for it.
We found one of the more difficult parts of a high growth business is it requires partners, but not all partners can keep up. And actually very few can keep up.
Yes.
And we've been guilty of like projecting our own ambition and our own speed onto our partners, and they just aren't built for it.
Right.
And there's been times where we were too slow recognizing it, that, they're not built to scale the same way.
Yeah.
And this.
Yeah. I set scary goals.
Yeah.
And, for myself and people that are not equipped will definitely be very scary.
Yeah. Yeah.
I understand that.
Yeah.
And I do have to kind of slow down sometimes with some people. But if they're not equipped, then I have to find somebody that is. It's that simple. I'm not slowing down. I'm not slowing down. I don't know if I ever mentioned it to you, but I did mention it to Chad. My goal is to have an organization like what you have.
Yeah.
I want buyers out there. I want somebody that could go design and do these aspects.
Yeah.
And obviously I'm going to control it at a certain point, but I'm not good at design. I want to get somebody who's great at design.
Yeah.
So I want that person, somebody to go out there and buy my properties. That's my goal, to do multiple. And then I also want a good rental portfolio. I'm 51, 51? Yeah, 51. Going 52. So I want to have something established. I want to bust my ass every day, every day. But I want to set it up for myself and generations, like generational wealth. Like that's something I didn't learn.
Yeah.
But I want to set that up, and this is a way to do it. And I love what I do.
Yeah.
Isn't that something? When you love what you do, it's not work.
Yeah.
And when I tell people my schedule, I get up early in the morning and I don't go to bed till maybe 1 or 2 o'clock. And I'm on a computer here, I'm on a computer here, searching for properties, doing different things because I like what I do.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not work.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
When you can find the product that you enjoy doing, that you can leverage the skills that you've learned over the course of your lifetime, and there's money there.
Yes.
Like that's a pretty cool thing.
Very
Real
cool.
estate is just so unique because there's so many different ways. Like once you understand the game, and you built an ecosystem, there's just so many different ways that you can leverage it.
I heard ecosystem when I first started, and I sort of understood it, but I didn't. I really understand it now. So when I speak to the new franchisees, I tell them, man, I said, work on your ecosystem. Trust me, because that's going to allow you to do so much.
Yeah. I love that word because it's so organic. It's not a spreadsheet.
Right.
It's an ecosystem is this organic, living organisms. that has personality.
It's fluid too, because there's people coming in and out.
Fluid, yeah, different personalities, and how you nurture those different people and inspire them and push them, and it's I think it's a great visual.
It is.
And the bigger it gets, the more problems it can solve, the more it can produce. But it's not a factory, and it's not a machine, because there's people involved, and it's people. People are not a machine. It's art.
Well, again, that's why I told my kids from very young, one thing I need you to learn is how to communicate with people. The art of communication is lost. It really is. I said, once you can do that, you can do anything you want to do. Doesn't matter. My daughter is a performer, but her communication skills has gotten her further than she may think. Same thing with my son. My son, he's now a teacher, and he's a baseball coach. He's a high school baseball coach. And he's a teacher. He teaches business finance. But the communication skills gotten him all the opportunities. And they come back to me, Dad, I didn't understand till now, because I told them throughout my entire career I never had to apply for a job. My entire life, never had to apply for a job. It was all word of mouth and relationship. Phone call, somebody would call me, we got this opportunity, vice versa, and that's what they're dealing with now, because the communication skills. It's invaluable.
On that job site,
everywhere.
That's the magic.
It also helps that I'm bilingual, so a lot of my workers are Spanish, so it does help. I mean, I speak fluent Spanish, so that's another positive. So I speak to them, even though they know and understand English, but once you speak to them in their language, it's such a different comfort level, and that dynamic adds value.
For sure.
To my workers that are Spanish. So
man, we could go on for so long. I can't wait to see, this has all happened in the first year, man. I can't wait this time next year to see what your ecosystem looks like next year. That's a exciting pace.
It's exciting.